All right, welcome to the podcast. I want to welcome on Chris Brennan. Chris, thanks for being on the show.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
So you're a screenwriter. You also have done marketing, and you've kind of combined the two, right? So you train screenwriters how to help market themselves as well.
Yeah, so basically, I started as a screenwriter and a filmmaker, and
Okay.
I co directed my first feature that led to me selling my first feature script, which was produced. And all then I was hired to write other people's screenplays from various producers. But all the while, I was actually building a career in marketing. And the one thing that I started noticing over like the decade plus career in both sections is the strategies, tips, and the tools that I was utilizing and using in the world of marketing, lead generation, and content, we were just completely lacking that knowledge and those skill sets and that experience in the filmmaker screenwriter world. And so I would go to film festivals, film premieres, networking events, and I would just inevitably start chatting to people about the topic of marketing because I just thought we all desperately need more help with this concept, how to position ourselves better, how to brand ourselves, how to communicate more professionally. And so it was very easy for me one day to go, wait, I'm actually the perfect person to actually bring this to them. I'm doing this on a smaller scale individually at these events. Maybe I should just bring this, dedicate a bit more time to it, and then kind of build a focal point towards this. And so the goal now is to just really help screenwriters professionally communicate their careers as well as their projects.
I mean, I love that. I think that's awesome. Let's unwrap this a little bit. So a screenwriter comes to you and they say, "Hey, I'm looking at breaking in. I'm looking at building my career. What are the steps you're taking them? Are you talking about branding or social media presence? Like, what are you guiding them through?"
Well, the way I love to look at the marketing is, first of all, before you can get into any techniques like email marketing and use this template, it's first to look at the mindset that you have going in. So right away, what a lot of us do in this industry is we want to connect with a decision maker or a collaborator and get them to help us. But if you actually look at what our industry is, we're actually what you would call B2B, business to business. We are a business as a screenwriter, and we're trying to
Yep.
sell our product or our service, our product being our screenplay, our service being writing, to another business. Now, if you look at any other B2B, how they do it is they show the other business the value that they can bring to that business. Whereas screenwriters go, can you read my script? Can you help me? And immediately
It's
I'm just going,
hilarious.
we need to flip that mindset. Before you can do anything else, we need to find a way that you can convey the value you bring to that producer, to that agent, to that decision maker. And once you have that mindset, the rest that we go through is super simple and easy. And we try to keep it simple because it's breaking it down into try to add value and speak to them like a human being that you actively want to help. Not this get rich quick scheme, not the how can I take everything from you and then benefit myself. No, just find the way that showcases your unique skill set, your creativity, your experience, and how that person can understand the value that brings.
I mean, I love this. I really feel like you and I are have the same MO when it comes to this. What I'm hearing is finding your voice as a writer
Mm-hmm.
and pitching that voice out there so that people know who you are, what you can provide. I'm always telling writers when you're quote networking with someone or you're creating that relationship, you always want to be able to provide value to them so that
Mm-hmm.
they can't say no to you, that they go, "Oh my goodness, I need help." I mean, I had somebody who I had met at a film festival. We had jived just a little bit, and months later, they came to me because they had been brought onto a project that they had to take themselves off of because they got cancer. And
Okay.
I was the first person that they thought of to take this project because they felt I had the ability to do that, and it had some B-list stars in it connected to it. So it was like a whole thing. So like being able to provide that value, that you have the knowledge, you have the ability to help these people, may not pay off right away, but maybe down the line you might be put in a position where you can really help somebody, and it's beyond just making a buck.
Yeah, that goes with another point, which is, and it seems simple, but again, it's supposed to be simple. Like, we deal with people with, even if the very beginner screenwriter and even very
Hmm.
seasoned, experienced people, there's an element of networking and communication that is just uncomfortable. So I try my best to keep it as grounded, as simple as possible. And the one thing I do know, even from my own experience, is that you can go weeks to months without actually talking to somebody in the industry, but we think we're making progress because we're writing. It's like, yeah, but you need to get out there and you need to showcase that you exist. Remind people that you're there. Like, I got my start in Dublin, Ireland, and I found that if I was in at home and I was writing, cool, I was getting some pages done. That was it. But there was this filmmaker center that was in the city center of Dublin called Filmbase, and I noticed that if I just sit there and do the writing, then opportunities would literally walk past me. Somebody would
That's
come up and say,
amazing.
"Can you teach me? Or can you teach my class in transmedia at the time, or marketing?" And I was like, "Wow!" Or a director would walk by, or an actor, And I was like, just reminding people that you exist is a big goal, and it's a big step anyway, because whenever they do have a need for something, then you have a better chance of them thinking of you. But it's not just about that. Like, that's part of the coin. One
Yeah.
of the things that I'd actually bring up, rather than finding your voice as a writer, which is totally important, it's literally in these scenarios, is to try to find a way to add value. And it doesn't have to be strictly on the screenplay and professional writer, does your pages look great format. So an example that I've used in the past and I've helped people with too is, if you go to, let's just call it a film festival, and you meet a
Hmm.
producer. Now, you could be standing there waiting for your chance to pitch your project, but what you probably should be doing is accumulating enough information about that person as you can. So if you think of this in marketing terms, this is what we'd call inbound marketing, where we're trying to exchange value added content for their information. And what we're going to do with their information, usually you know this if you fill out a form to download an ebook. They're asking you for first name, last name, email address, and then maybe the region where you're from, or a little bit about you, because they want to segment you into a list, and then they want to tailor content specifically for that segment. We can do that in our own unique way. If we can ask this person questions like general, and be human about this, the more natural it is, the better it is. But ask real, useful, like interesting, engaging questions. And then if you exchange details later, you don't want to hit them up next with, "Do you want to read my script?" Hopefully, you've gotten enough information that you can provide them with a follow-up email going, "Oh, by the way, following up our conversation about dot, 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 here's a link to this." Like, there's one example that I have that I did recently that I think is a pretty good way of describing this. I usually like to speak in like real practical terms rather than just broad generalizations. So speaking with this producer, and we were talking about our love for 70s horror. Now, I got into 70s horror a couple of years ago. It was one of those subgenres I wasn't really too invested in at the time. So I got really into it, and it's fun when that happens, because then you have this entire sandbox. You're like, "Oh my God, like, I have so much to learn here." So I chatted to this producer about that, briefly told him about my project, and then we exchanged details, and that was it. And then about a week later, I find, if I go onto the Fangoria website, that they
Hmm.
have digital versions of their back catalog available to download for free. So I go, "Well, I know somebody who might find this interesting." So I emailed the producer, "Hey, it was lovely to meet you at this event. Following up our conversation about 70s horror, did you know that Fangoria have backdated all these issues?" I shared the link. He gets back to me within I can't remember, maybe a day, maybe a few hours. It was like, for me, it was immediate. "Oh my God, thank you so much. This is amazing. By the way, your project sounds cool." It was like, I didn't re-engage with him about me. I re-engaged about him. And because of that, it changed the chemistry of our relationship immediately. It became something where it's like, "Oh, this individual I just met has provided something that I find valuable." So immediately they look favorably upon you. And it's really, what I love too, is it's clean, it's pure, it's actually beneficial to the other person. And if you can do that and find ways to build a network and build professional relationships that you can nurture with that mindset rather than the how can this person help me, you're usually going to find your footing, and it only takes one person to finally go, let me read your script, and then you're off to the races from there.
I mean, it sounds like developing a relationship.
Yeah, that's it. And you're using digital tools and marketing techniques to actually achieve that. But a lot of screenwriters worry about the term marketing. They misunderstand it. They quote Bill Hicks and they go, not for me, la, la, la. It's like, no, it's literally professional communication with a point and a purpose. But there's really bad marketing out there, and there's really good marketing. And the really good marketing is the ones that focus on solving a problem. And the bad marketing is about trying to get you to buy something.
So when I first started out doing this forever ago, I was I would say almost crippling amount of introversion. Like I could not engage in conversation. I found myself having to almost play a character. Eventually, I was able to, I don't know, discover who I was as a person and what value I can bring to people in conversations. And that made networking and getting my stuff out there far more easier. So what are a few tips that you have for people, the writer out there who loves to sit behind their computer and then clamps up when they're at that film festival?
I think it really goes back to that exact point where they're clamping up because they're wondering and they're worrying about how they will look, what they should say, when really they could do the interview. They could be the one asking the questions. And then later on, when they're back behind the computer, that's whenever they can take action and take that time to develop that relationship. But they're just in the data mining section when they're interviewing somebody. They don't even need to promote the project the person won't remember anyway.
Yeah.
You can, and it's really nice to at least acknowledge that you're a professional and you do have a project. But really, as long as you can kind of develop a rapport, you can go back and then continue that conversation on email, because that's actually this day and age where most of it takes place. But then with email, there's a lot of techniques that you can do as well, because again, it isn't just this one email is going to get it for me. And can you read my script? It's not that the answer is no. There's most likely just not going to be an answer. And then that's going to make it the self-confidence of the introverted even worse, because they'll turn around and they'll misunderstand what the absence is, and they'll immediately think that person doesn't like me or doesn't like my project, and then they won't communicate again. What I would recommend, and this is all followed by data from every vertical in every business for email marketing, is first off, don't lead with, can you read my script? But if you lead with that kind of value added or conversational pointed emails, then you should be aiming for a reply. So that's what you're looking for, is a reply. That's the first step. And across every industry, on average for sales and marketing, it can take 5 to 8 emails as the average to get a reply. Not to get a sale, not to get a positive, to get a reply. So for screenwriters listening to this, how many times have you given up after one email when in no industry has it ever been the case? You have to send 3 to 5, maybe the 6th one is the one that does it. And it isn't because they don't like you. They're just busy. And if you send it on a Friday, it'll get pushed down the email box and on page 2, and they'll just forget about it. So what you're trying to do is gently, again, remind people that you exist. And if you can go a step further, you can actually add value by going, hey, you like this because I've learned it because I asked you, check this out. You can also go the other route. You don't have to be beholden to trying to add value. The same thing can apply by just asking questions and going, hey, I have a screenplay and I was just wondering what the next step should be. A, should I apply for film funding? Or B, should I seek out a producer? Any and all tips you might have is beneficial. That email works super great because you're not trying to pretend to be something you're not. And also that adds another trick in the email marketing canon that works is you've added the response to the email. If you go A, B, or C, it's easier for that person to provide the response because you've actually written the variable responses. That one tactic is super good for getting a response because then they don't have to sit there and work it out. most likely you're contacting a busy person. But this day and age, we're all pretty busy. So whatever you can do to help them reply to you is going to make that conversion even better and easier.
It's funny that you say, and I've done this from an earnest perspective, not like, oh, I'm trying to kind of grab this person's attention, but I've always sought guidance, right? Coming
Mm-hmm.
up, learning screenwriting, learning the business. And I've found mentors and I'd be like, can you just point me in the right direction? Can you just help me understand what I don't know? Because you don't know what you don't know. And
That's right.
and several directors, filmmakers, producers have helped me with that. And inevitably, when I think back at that, that has led to opportunity. So I think there's something to be said for when you come at it from that I want to learn, I want to improve perspective. People are more willing to help you because I think they understand your ego isn't in it. And if you approach someone who knows something, they may be flattered, that, oh, this person respects me, but they also, all of us that have struggled want to give back, and if it is through this random email that we receive from some screenwriter we met at a film festival, so be it. I mean, I've had writers approach me for visas and they said, hey, we met at this
Oh,
film
really?
festival. I'm trying to get a visa to work in the U.S. And I've had a few writers who met me at film festival that I run ask that, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do it, and I sponsored them, and now they work as writers in the U.S. And so, I mean, that wouldn't have happened if they didn't just reach out and ask for help like that. So I think an earnest response like that, I think that's brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of goes. It's not really the marketing aspect, but it goes into a theory I have, and I've filmed a video for this. It's going to be on my Writing Chops YouTube channel. So Writing
Okay.
Chops, think of acting chops, and it's the mentor and the
Yeah.
cheerleader. And it's this theory I have where I've actually realized the only time I've really succeeded is when I have a mentor and a cheerleader, somebody who I can go to for emotional support and like somebody who's just got my back thick and thin, the cheerleader who's just there with me. But
It's
they're not the
awesome.
best person for strategy, for even creative input. So instead, I have a mentor for that. And this is somebody who's more senior than me, more experience, and can give me proper guidance or even literally connect me with somebody. And the times that I've actually found pure success, sold a script, was hired to write, was when I had both. So that's always been a goal for me.
Wow.
And that also goes back to that point with that email. Is like, don't pretend to be the professional yet. It's not transparent and people can see right through it, especially the experienced ones. Instead, just be honest, earnest, and ask a legitimate question, and that will get the response. And then you can develop a relationship from there. This is a nurturing concept that we're talking about. This is not a shotgun the emails out and hopefully we'll get a biter. Like, I understood this used to be the only tactic we possibly had back in the 90s. Even your interview with Ashley about selling your screenplay. And I know so many
Yeah.
people who were working in the 90s, and this is, I'm sending letters out. They had that
Yeah.
because of the limitations of
Yeah.
communication we have. This is what we had
Yeah.
to do, especially if you lived in Delaware or Canada. But we have the World Wide Web now. Like, we should change our tune and not go for the shotgun. This is the only time I have it. Instead, just try to build a positive, nurturing relationship.
I
And
love
if
that.
you don't have anything to add value to, if you don't want to ask a question, there's one other thing you can do in terms of email marketing as well. That if you have a list of producers or business cards from people that you met 2 years ago, we can call
Uh-huh.
them cold leads in marketing terms and sales terms. But instead of connecting with them and going, do you want to read this next thing? What I would advise, I've done this myself and I advise screenwriters, and it's worked for them as well, is why don't you just reach out to them and go, hey, do you have a passion project that you think would be a really great screenplay or a project? Like, have you
Yeah.
read an article? Is there a book? Potentially, I could help you with that. If you have the time, let's hop on a call and discuss that project. It's all about them. You're adding value, but you're reconnecting with somebody that you met before and it might have went cold, but what a great way to come back into their life, adding
Oh
value
my God.
and showing that you're here to listen and you can use your service for their benefit.
It's crazy
then
that
guess
you
what
say
happens too? This happens.
Go ahead.
Just to finish the point. What happened then to me was they go, "Great, can I read a sample of your work?" Guess what? They're reading my screenplay. It's like that's how I got them to read my screenplay, was to talk about a project of theirs, and they like my screenplay. Let's talk. And so I was like, I got in the end what I was hoping for, but I did it in a way that they were looking at it about how it can benefit them. So I just wanted to finish that point because I think it's really nice, because we probably have listeners here going, but I don't want to write somebody's thing. I want them to read my screenplay. That tactic, that strategy literally led to that person reading my screenplay.
which I think is brilliant. No, I will. I'll elaborate. I think that's brilliant. But for the writers out there saying, I just want to write my own screenplay, I mean, if you want to keep getting work, look at writing other people's screenplays too. And I'll give you an example, because I did an adaptation on a book for a producer, and that was 6 years ago. I got a phone call from them yesterday, and not only did they ask me about the sequel, but they asked me if I wanted to co-write the sequel novel. And I mean, that was like,
oh,
what?
Wow.
So yeah, so like, and that's just totally out of the blue. And I mean, I haven't heard from them in 6 years, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we loved your script so much from the adaptation. What do you think about doing the sequel to this novel as well? And I was like, I was like blown away, because it's super cool. So like, you never know. Before I let you go, Chris, this has been awesome. Is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have?
Well, I would like to continue on the email marketing train, because marketing is such a gigantic topic in general that I feel like if you actually just focus on something practical and tangible and something that screenwriters do regularly, email, it can usually land better. But it's not about waiting for these one moments and this month I'll send this email. What I would actually try to advise is to just turn this into a habit, a daily habit, that you should send one email a day, every single day, and that email should be dedicated to helping your career. Now, it isn't supposed to be about you, but it's about connecting with a screenwriter and saying, would you like to read my log line? If I could, send me your log line and we can exchange notes. The same thing you can do with reading screenplays. You can connect with an actor, see if they want to meet up. You can connect with a producer and learn about them. But you actually just get into the habit of just sending one email a day, every single day. And that chance you have where you say, I worked with someone 6 years ago and they contacted me yesterday. That's what you're investing in over time. Every single day, you're putting a little bit more into that networking pile, and it just takes one or two of them to come back. It might be next week, it might be next month, it might be 6 years from now. But if you're actively working at a very sustainable level too, we can all send one email a day. You can go from there. And as a resource, because again, I know the next question is, but what kind of emails can I send? If you go to the writingchops.io webpage for my brand, I actually have an email a day template, a full calendar of each email you can send in a given month. And you can literally just follow that. You'll see how simple it actually is. And then you can duplicate that month, do it again. I would also advise add your own, or reach out to me directly and I can literally help you with ideations for what kind of emails to send. But I think just saying sending emails is important, but no, it's like making it a habit, just investing at least 5 minutes, because that's what it can take to send an email. Just do it every single day, and you will immediately start seeing the responses come in. And what counts as an email is a reminder email. So you can email somebody who didn't get back to you, that still counts. You can reply to someone's email, that still counts. I wouldn't want to put too much pressure on people, but just one email a day. It's just, as long as it benefits your career, your projects, or tries to add value to somebody in the industry, I think you're in a really great place there to succeed. Now, you should be working on your craft. You should be making sure that your projects are up to the professional level. So when those opportunities come, you can have something to showcase. But I also feel like there's so many people who can talk on that level that I feel like I can bring this other unique aspect to it. But, there's a lot of amazing, talented people describing how to write. And maybe I can just come in with the how to market yourself and your projects.
No, I think that's great. I think the introverts like myself love templates. So if you have a template that will help us people, I think that's fantastic.
I even on that
Chris,
resource page, I actually also have a ebook on email marketing with 8 email templates that I've already written. Again, I advise you to rewrite it in your own voice, but it's all there for you. You can download it for free. Yeah, so exactly
awesome.
in that template style, just do it for them as much as I can, and hopefully people can find the career that they were looking for by just following these simple tactics.
I really appreciate your time. This is fantastic. Thank you.
No, thank you, man. This is fun.
All right.